Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review for A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is a adult epic fantasy standalone companion story. This is a prequel to The Priory of the Orange Tree. I'm pointing because my copy's up there. But this takes place 500 years earlier in the same world, so you don't have to have read either book to read the other, because the context of the story and everything is different. But years ago, in this world, generations ago, there was a dragon called the Nameless One that was wreaking havoc on the world and basically destroying it. And so in their history, there was someone, everyone sort of has different opinions about this, that put that dragon back where it belongs. And from that story and that myth, a bunch of different parts of this world formed different borderline creation stories. Obviously it's not creation, but like things all unraveled from there. And because of that, there are different sort of mage societies that are set up to be protecting the world from this. And then there are different queendoms that apparently have the power to have that not happen. There are other dragons that aren't related. There's really like dragons and worms if we're getting into like dragon lore, but the bad dragon was actually a worm, and then dragons themselves are actually good. There's some parts of the world that have dragons as their gods, and dragons would fight that dragon. So there's a bunch of different worldviews, essentially. And in this story, we are following multiple different POVs from people around the world that do, in various ways, intersect. And shortly into the beginning of the story, there is something that has happened that almost seems like that dragon, the bad one, is coming back. And so everything is sort of unraveling from there. This is a very dense, as you can see, political fantasy, I would say. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's about religions and society and like how different myths are formed and who holds power, and there's a bunch of different like interesting magic systems in here. And yeah, so first off, when we talk about the world building, as I said, I just kind of went into most of the world. What I enjoy is that there is a bunch of different cultures represented in this world, and how different cultures would form from a similar story, different interpretations of that story, how some of the cultures interact and some don't. And if you have read Priory, it kind of shows like what, again, was happening like 500 years before that influenced some of the things there. There are different fantasy creatures, again, the differences between dragons and worms and wervins and all of that. There's also a theme in here of balance and different kinds of magic and different kinds of balance there, and how those things would even each other out. Different languages and different cultures based on where they are in the world. So I think the world building in here is very rich. There are parts of it that are incredibly dense. There are parts of the story, I mean, there's a whole index in here and a glossary that you can look through and kind of see what's, you know, different characters and everything. But there are parts in here that are a little bit dense that I do think that this book could use some pruning on, because there are things that are mentioned about the history too that you're like, why are you telling me this? Like, that wasn't even actually relevant. So what I will say about books like this that are this long epic fantasies, sometimes you don't need to remember every detail. And sometimes they could have probably be cut out. Next, I'm going to talk about our characters. I really enjoyed the characters in here. I am finding myself thinking back on Priory, which I think I read in like 2020, I think. I mean, shortly after it came out, I want to say. There were characters in there that I feel like are not resonating and sticking with me. There are so many characters in here that I really enjoyed. This whole world in Priory is the same way. It's very queer, particularly sapphic. There are mostly female characters as our main characters. Female relationships and female loves are like very important in this, and just like the structures and things and the ways in which, again, different societies are formed is a big key point of this. But I really enjoyed all the characters and the ways that some of them eventually intersected. Felt for a few of the couples in particular. This is not romance heavy, but like romance is a part of this world and these relationships and things, because like the nature of humans and the ways in which they connect and intertwine and stuff. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the plot. I enjoyed the smaller character moments, the political, it's again, very political driven story, even though we have this overarching plot of like fantasy and dragons and worms and all of that. There's a lot of just like politics stuff happening and the ways in which all those things intertwine. So I enjoyed that. Again, I will say that I think what Samantha Shannon suffers from is a little bit of pacing and needing some editing. There are parts, especially at the beginning, that are very slow. Like it kind of takes a little bit to like really warm up. And then there are parts at the end that just seem very rushed, where we skip parts and we're not necessarily seeing what's going on in the interim. This book does take place over a number of years too, so there's like giant chunks of time that are skipped. So I think that, same as Priory, this is my opinion on Priory, that this could have been 2 books. And both of those things could have been fleshed out, but also edited in some ways. So yeah, pacing is a problem with these books, but I ultimately like the characters and the world and stuff make up for that. And I do think the plots are overall very interesting and engaging. This did make me want to reread Priory just because I wanted to see, like, having known this. And I do think, just based on some of the snippets that we got, that she'll probably continue to write in this world as these, like, sort of companions taking place lots of years in the future, in the past, whatever. Because playing with that I think is really fun. And I really like the idea of having these really epic fantasy stories, but not necessarily needing to read all of them, but you can if you want to. So overall, I gave this like 4.25 stars. Really enjoyed it. Of the two, this one is sitting higher in my feelings than Priory, but again, Priory needs a reread for me. So comment below, let me know what you thought of A Day of Fallen Night. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.